So Darren, Head of Asset Management for Ferrovial, and I've been here having a great conversation today with Hrish, understanding where a global infrastructure company and the Metaverse are going to come together in the future. I invite you all to visit Infoverse, or stand in the corner, and you can look at what we've been doing in Metaverse as an infrastructure company. Hrish.
My name is Hrish Lotlikar. I'm co-founder and CEO of SuperWorld. Just a quick run through of my background, kind of been around in a lot of spaces, from management consulting, investment banking on Wall Street, as a UBS and HSBC, started off in real estate investment banking, got into venture capital investing across tech and biotech in Europe and the US. Was early at a company called TopTal, which is an Andreessen Horowitz-backed talent marketplace. And then previous to SuperWorld, I started Rogue Initiative Studios in Hollywood. My co-founder did Call of Duty, Modern Warfare series, and Ghosts. And my partner is Michael Bay, the action director. And at Rogue Initiative, we do feature film, television, gaming, immersive entertainment. And then when we saw what Pokemon Go did in terms of allowing people to see content in real world places, we thought, how could we empower anyone to create, discover, and monetize anything, anywhere, which turns into the vision of SuperWorld. I'm from Madrid, soy madrileño. I love this place, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I guess it's a Q&A session. Anyone want to fire some questions? No?
Hola. Hi. My question is, what's stopping company A or company B from taking the same idea of creating a place you can buy? I mean, if you have the real world place and the digital place, you create your own digital place. What's stopping the other company from doing the exact same thing, and instead of selling it at $200, they sell it at $50?
I'll answer that. Again, that's a great question. We get that a lot. Ultimately, as you know, in Web3, this is all about communities, right? All of these Web3 companies, even when you're talking about a protocol like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana, any of the top protocols, layer 2 protocols, applications built in Web3, ultimately, we're all building these platforms, these communities together, right? And what we've found in terms of SuperWorld is our community is all about empowering people in their real lives, and also about how we can come together to build a better world. We're not just a technology. You could say, hey, you know what? Airbnb is a great idea. I'm going to start another Airbnb, right? Airbnb, even though it's a Web 2 company, again, encapsulates this idea of community. There are people coming together, sharing their home, right? So if I'm using a Web 2 example to explain the power of when you can utilize blockchain, NFTs, protocols to come together to actually become stakeholders in a project. So when you buy land in SuperWorld, you are, again, understanding our long-term vision. You are coming onto SuperWorld, you're buying a place, a part of this movement that we're building. And then you're using these technologies, right, again, which will completely evolve over time, continue to get better, improve. We'll be more integrating more technologies. We'll be, again, connecting to the real world, the physical world. And as you start building in SuperWorld, guess what? I mean, again, just as you live in Madrid and you may buy a place in Madrid, you might go to school in Madrid, you might open a business in Madrid. You're part of the community in Madrid, right? And so it's a similar concept that's happening in Web3, and particularly in SuperWorld. So SuperWorld in that sense isn't just the technology, which you're right, you can create technology, you can create similar frameworks. Ultimately, this is about people coming together, building together, creating sources of value, and then therefore they are now part of what we call Team SuperWorld. And that is something that can't be, again, copied and replaced, and we're very an inclusive community.
I think I can build a little bit on that analogy. I could ask you, what's to stop you starting a company to build bridges and highways and rail? There's nothing. So it's all about experience, it's about value, it's about ecosystem, it's about your supply chain, it's about having open standards. We're encouraging. Infoverse is not something that we're trying to protect and put IP around. We're trying to use open standards, open environments where we can take the value that we bring to the real world infrastructure and we can use it in the metaverse and invite other people in to use those systems. So I think the ecosystem is what gives you sustainability. It's not having the digital copyright of one piece of material, it's the ecosystem and the value chain you build.
Can I ask something else?
You can, but there's a guy behind you. Can we do that one and then come back to you, is it?
Sorry. I'll give it back to you, sorry, man. Okay, so you said like ecosystem, the comparisons are right, but how can a normal person find and be safe to buy a land of the virtual world and avoid it to someone not just steal it? Because when they steal it, you lose it and it goes to the blockchain and you cannot tell on anyone, yeah? How can you prevent that, yeah? So that people can trust and invest more?
NFT,
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I think that was a very important part of our philosophy of creating a decentralized system that is not controlled by a centralized party. So when you buy, example, virtual real estate in SuperWorld, you understand our long-term vision. We want to empower people, we want to improve the world, right? And you're thinking to yourself, you know what? I have a business in, the center of Madrid, or I love going on vacation in Malaga, or I love that trip that I go to every year in London. I would love to put content there, or advertising, or marketing, or an experience that helps me in my personal life or my business life. So first thing is, I think the pathway is figuring out where to buy, right? Number one. And the beauty of this is, I say everywhere in the world is special to someone, right? And so if you understand the vision, you want to go and own those places. And this is how we're building the gateway. But the important question is, once you've gotten a place, right, what does that mean? First of all, what it means is you're able to share in all of the benefits, the monetization, all of the activity that's happening in that place. Not only from your activity, but from everyone's activity, right? From anyone who's building there. There's an infinite number of filters. And so you're getting all of that monetization. Now what makes that area very popular and very valuable, right? And so now it comes to your question, how do I make sure that's protected, right? So number one, we're using blockchain technologies like Ethereum, which again, we're very long-term. We've been doing this for 5 years, right? We've been in the NFT space since 2018. So we're very long-term focused, and that's one of our focuses is how do we make sure that people that are building in SuperWorld are protected? That's why we chose Ethereum as the blockchain. Again, a very big developer community, the biggest developer community in the world, DApp ecosystem. It's decentralized, so you have to be careful about your keys, your wallets, how you're accessing this system. I think that will get better over time, right? There are technologies now that are enabling us to, again, buy NFTs in a way that's more secure. But at the end of the day, the more decentralized you get, the more responsibility that you have as a owner of these assets to, again, make sure that you're keeping these passwords, these keys very secure. But ultimately on our side, we want to make sure people are educated about what that takes. We want to make sure that you have access to the best wallets that enable you to have that choice in terms of decision making of how you protect your assets. And on our side, again, allowing you the infrastructure and the functionality, and I have two of my team members here you can talk to as well, to give you that ability to accrete value to the places that you love. So it's a multi-sided approach, but ultimately we want to, again, incorporate the best practices in the market to help you have security. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm not going to build on that one because the infrastructure blockchain piece is much more mundane, but just as important. But so I won't really build on that one because it was more of a virtual space question. Did you have another question? I'm not controlling the microphone.
Hola. Hola. todavía no sé ahora. You guys speak a lot about community engagement and creativity. And isn't it very dangerous relying only on that? What happens if it doesn't work out? What happens if there's not enough engagement?
I'm going to start with that one because when we talk about community, we're talking about maybe a different thing than a global community. So our community, from an infrastructure perspective, is much more controlled. It's our client, it's the DOT, it's our own employees, it's the citizens that use our infrastructure. So we have a much more controlled environment, and obviously we have many good global leading partners making sure from an IT perspective our systems are secured, and the way we engage community is very important. These things are not something that's just come up yesterday, you know. The ability to protect our infrastructure, even the location of infrastructures like an airport from terrorist attacks, etc., has been absolutely critical. So these things, the same experience and culture moves into the metaverse in the same way, and we apply the same principles in that space. But again, I think you could probably talk more in the virtual space than me, so.
And, you know, again, I think everything that my colleague is saying, Darren is saying in the physical world, I think applies here as it applies to the metaverse, especially as it relates to technology, security, making sure product is optimized, right? That's why I point to my colleagues here in the audience to go more into that. But the idea is, you know, when you are building for a community, you want to make sure that community has the best tools, the best, you know, opportunities, features, functionality, access to be able to, again, create real world utility. So community is one thing, but ultimately how you create that community is by creating, you know, real benefits to someone to be part of that community. And some of those are network effects, right? I think a community comes together and becomes more powerful from, you know, Metcalfe's law. Well, guess what? Bob Metcalfe is part of SuperWorld, right? So we definitely understand the importance of kind of building in the product that ultimately gives power to each new node that joins that community. And again, integrating technologies like Web3 are the technology layer that stands behind some of the things that we're saying on the forefront, which is ideas and people coming together around a mission and a movement. So it's not just the more qualitative aspects of the community, which you're bringing up, which is very important. What is behind that is you're looking at the best in Web3, the best in AR, VR, the best in AI and technology.
My apologies, I have
Yeah.
to go. Apologies, guys, I have an emergency that I have to attend to. We'll take care.
I'm filling in very quickly.
Yeah.
So we have a question, yes.
Hello? Okay, thank you. So thanks for the presentation. We have been before this morning in the other audience, so thank you very much for your thoughts about Metaverse. My question is the following.
okay.
Taking into account copyright, and please, I'm asking this question from someone which is not, I haven't born digital, as you can imagine, so I have become, or I'm in the process. Hopefully, I'll be digital in the future. But we read a few weeks ago that a very luxurious brand as Hermes found out that a lady's bag was in the metaverse and didn't know anything about it. And this thing was already patented. So Hermes now and the legal department is trying to know what can they do in order to sort this situation. Let's assume that we buy at Cupertino the entire Apple headquarters. Do you foresee any potential problems from those that will buy digital land in a virtual space in the future when regulation will evolve and at some point the owner in the real world may say something in this regard? I don't know if you understood my question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm happy to, you know, very, very directly kind of hit on all of those parts of that question. So first of all, I want to be clear that the law in the physical world applies to the metaverse, right? So IP rights of IP holders will, again, be managed and regulated similarly in these digital spaces, right? Just as they are now in, you know, digital environments, whether you're talking about Web 2, the internet in general, right? Same thing. The metaverse is not a special place. It's all the same. Again, everything that you think of in terms of IP rights as they apply to internet apply here. Full stop. Now, when you're talking about virtual real estate in SuperWorld, to be clear, what we've done is we have an overlay on the surface of the Earth. We've divided the surface of the Earth into 64 billion properties. 0.01 longitude, 0.01 latitude. Independent of what's on the physical surface. It's virtual real estate on top of the surface of the Earth. And if you're like, you know what? I think Puerto del Sol is an important place for me, right? You can buy 0.01 longitude, latitude in that location, right? And if they decide to build a parking lot there, now you own a parking lot. If they decide to build another monument there, now you own the virtual real estate that, again, covers that area. You are not buying Apple's headquarters in Cupertino, California. You are buying a 0.01 part of the SuperWorld platform that covers the surface of the Earth in that location. And now that you own that location, you are able to share and benefit from and create and discover and monetize value in that location, right? So now that you are now a stakeholder in SuperWorld with us, all of us, in building that location. You can accrete value there, you can create content there, you can bring other people there virtually or physically. There's an infinite number of layers there, filters. So even if you own that place, I could put something there. You know, South Summit could say, you know what, we're gonna put a big hot air balloon there with South Summit right in Puerto del Sol.
Oh, hello.
But you benefit from all of the activity that happens there, right? And so the idea is, again, IP that's created, again, is owned by the IP holders. You can't just put a Hermes bag there. You understand? But Hermes can, and you could benefit from that monetization that they are creating there. Does that make sense?
What you could imagine is how someone would feel if, like, you're some guy who I've never met who now says you own the space over my back garden. You could imagine how I'm like, who are you and what are you doing?
Well, you know, again, that happens all the time right now. So I can go into an Amazon store. I can go to your house, okay, and I can sit on my phone and watch YouTube videos at your house. And guess what? There's a guy who made those videos who's earning money in your house. You know, because there's YouTube's showing ads on those videos, right? And so there is a media asset that I can access in your house on a platform, and there are transactions going on with third parties in your house, and you're like, hey man, why am I not getting any of this revenue? This is happening in my house. Guests are creating this, right? And so what we need to understand is when we talk about ownership of a digital asset, like a video, like a virtual property, which another way of thinking of a virtual property, it's a media asset, right? And so media assets can take multiple forms. And when we're moving into a geospatial computing environment, the beauty of it is everywhere can be a media asset. And you can own media assets, but you can also create. And to your point about your house, you have your own filter on the world. And so you can create anything you want. And if I put content at your house, let's say I'm a brand and I put some content, let's say I'm Tesla, right? And I'm like, guess what? Go into your garage, there's a new Tesla there, virtual Tesla, right? You're like, you know what? I buy Ford. I don't really care.
I prefer a real Tesla, but
right.
if I get
Tesla,
it,
right.
you know, I'll take a virtual Tesla.
Right.
That's all that's going. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And we could say, you know what? If you click on it, you might get a real Tesla if you're the winner, right? And so the point is you might say to me, I don't like Tesla. You know, I like Ferrari, right? Whatever brand. You don't have to actually even go into Tesla's world, right? You don't have to, you know, watch a commercial or interact with a brand that you don't like. And that's very important. On the data side at SuperWorld, we want it to be permissioned use of content, permissioned use of your data. So we want you to control your environment, right?
But okay, and then I mean, the question no one's asked is kind of a rude question, but like, where are the most valuable places in SuperWorld right now? Give me the top 10 list.
Yeah. So again, it's a great question. I think the way I think about this, and people always ask me, Hrish, you know what? Where should I be buying in SuperWorld, right? And I always tell people, where in the world is special to you? Where are places in the world that you find interesting? And if you talk to someone who's from New York City, and you talk to someone from Madrid, or you talk to someone from Indonesia, okay, these three people, they're probably going to share, each of them, 3 places that are the same. They're going to be like, you know what? The pyramids in Egypt, the Taj Mahal, Times Square, these are places to them that are valuable, maybe, something like that. But the beauty of this is there's going to be 7 other places that they each have that are going to be places that each of them don't know anything about. Where they went to school, where they have a business, where they go on vacation. These are places that they love themselves. And so what I tell people is ultimately, you're buying assets that you're going to be able to create value in those places, and other people are creating value in those places. And you want to buy places that are valuable to you personally. Ultimately, that is what, again, affects the value of any NFT, because you're buying and selling these properties that are important to you. And again, they're media assets, right? And so if you think of the art market, if you look at a piece of art, one piece of art is very valuable to one person, it's not valuable in another person. Similar kind of analogy here. Obviously, the geographical, real-world locations affects that value a lot.
But that's the sales thing, because you obviously want people to buy these things, but I mean, this is the curiosity factor. Like, there must be you know the top 10 places. Like, tell me.
I mean, again, so everyone has their own different
The Empire
patterns.
State. I'll help you. The Empire State Building. Like what?
Sure,
like,
sure. No,
can I buy that?
No, you can buy that. But this is what the point I was making was a real one.
Yeah.
So you could buy, the stadium here, right? Real Madrid Stadium. And you could say, you know what? I'm such a big soccer fan that is more important to me than Times Square. I am a Steve Jobs Apple fan, and I'm buying where his house is. And for me, that is worth more than anything else in the world. So you can value anything you want.
The point of like real estate, like we like to think like real estate's a dirty, crooked game where people want to make money. So say I think you're an idealistic guy and you're doing that, but I just want to make money, right?
Okay.
So somebody has been trading. I've been been reading about SuperWorld.
Yeah.
People are trading.
Yeah.
So where
So again, I would say downtowns are very popular. Historical places, stadiums, places where businesses exist that are important, museums, vacation areas.
What kind of multiples? What kind of multiples? How much could I make? Like how much would I expect to make in say 5 years?
Well, so again, what we say in this market is, again, if you are buying land in SuperWorld, ultimately you are believing in the long-term vision of creating value there. You as an individual, I had a conversation with an art collector yesterday by chance, right?
Sure.
And you know what he told me? He's like, you know why people buy art? And I said, why? And he's like, because you can control an asset that ultimately you have the power to, again, be able to affect the future value of that asset, right? And in a way, to go away from the physical real estate analogy here, because the importance here is, remember, there's an infinite number of filters on the world. In the real world, you can only have South Summit here at one time. In virtual real estate, Tesla could do a car show right here today. Do you understand? And there could be another infinite number of layers of monetization in a media asset, right? And so it's slightly different in a market where you have so much control to create value. So the answer is, the reason this is such a big potential, the reason why, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking about the long term, as you stated in your question, the opportunity to be able to lock in on a place that you love and to accrete value to that location, especially if it's important to you, you're creative, you have the potential, and other people also value that location, which goes back to this idealistic point, which is everyone has places that are special. It's an untapped potential, is my point. Okay. It's an unlimited potential, and that's why the interest in the market. That's why you see numbers like $8 trillion market, right? For the metaverse.
Okay. Sadly, we're out of time.
Yeah.
But first of all, I think thank you for coming to Madrid. We appreciate everyone who comes to see us. And I was around at the .com time, and I saw crazy ideas that became flesh. I was around in the crypto, the mobile. I've been through all the waves, and I do remember people saying the oddest things, and people with who had a lot of suspicious, but years later those came through. So I wish you the best of luck with it. If there's a demand for it, and if you're not doing anyone any harm, may you make $1 billion. So big round of applause, please, for Hrish. Thank you very much.
Thank you.